SMBs. So this is a proven framework that I came up with after testing with multiple migrations. What this is all about is why a different framework for SMB. It's because the way the data is structured, the way data is handled in small and medium businesses is different to what how it is handled in large enterprise. So this framework is a four-step framework that allows small businesses to easily migrate the data over to SMBs to migrate data over to AWS. So let's get started. So what's the objective for today? So at the end of this session, or I'll call it as master class, you will know the proven process I follow to migrate data to AWS. So that's the objective for today's session. So about me, obviously I'm founder of Cloud Optimized Solutions. Over 18 years of enterprise tech experience. I served multiple roles: support, pre-sales, sales. Then I did I was as an architect, and then I did worked on both Azure and AWS. And then I moved I returned back from the US to India to start my own business, which is really the technology consulting business. So that's what my background is. And last few years, it's been 3 years now, and over the last 3 years I provided multiple digital transformation services to SMEs, small and medium enterprises in India, Canada, and the US. So that's a little bit about me. So let's dive in. So here's the four-step data migration framework that I follow for SMBs to move their data over to AWS. So the first step is discover, the second step is migrate, third is secure, and finally it's integrate. I'm going to talk about each of these steps. So in this session today, we're going to talk about it's an overview of each of those steps. We're going to do deep dive sessions on how we accomplish each step in the future. So let's start about discover. So the first thing is in a small business, any kind of business, for example, you have different types of data, right? So you have client data, you have employee data, you have expenses data, you have different types of data. So first thing is to understand and group different types of data to figure out what's the data that the business holds, right? So there's a lot to it. So the reason to do the discover step for SMBs is because SMBs, they don't have that kind of budget to have so many people for different roles. So they're busy doing their day-to-day work, and some of the areas they get neglected, right? So it's really important to do a discovery exercise about the data on where it is. So first thing is to understand the type of data. Then we need to locate and document all data sources. So let's just say payroll data, where is it, where is it stored? Let's say if you're an accounting firm, where is the tax return data? If you're manufacturing, where are all your invoices, or where are all your procurement things? So there's so many stuff that each business has. We need to understand and locate where the data is. So that's the real second step. And then you don't need the entire data on day one on AWS, right? And what you want to do is basically you want to prioritize how to migrate the data into AWS. So that's what we are going to do as a third step. So okay, this client data goes first, then the production data goes first, second, or based on that discover exercise, we are going to prioritize. So after this step of this framework, you will have a prioritized list of data, the location of the data, the importance of the data that needs to go in to AWS, right? So that gives you an idea of how long it's going to take. What does it take to move the entire data to AWS? So that's step one in the framework. Then we have the next step, really migrate. So there's not much to explain here. So for SMBs, the best way to migrate is use AWS Transfer Family, which I'll do a lot of videos on in the future. For you to understand. Basically, Transfer Family allows you to use the traditional SFTP, FTP protocols to transfer data into AWS, and then it gives you high available architecture so that your transfers won't fail. So it's really that simple. And then you have snow family. Let's say you have remote location offices where you don't have a good enough internet connection. You can request a device, AWS, from the AWS Snow family based on the amount of data you're going to upload, and they're going to send you the device which also has some compute power in it, and you're going to load the data into it and send it back to the data AWS, and they're going to upload it for you. So that's the Snow family and Transfer family. Those are the primary ways for SMBs to move data to AWS. So that's the migrate step. This is the most technical step, as you can see, and that's where the technical expertise comes in. But that's once the data is migrated, then the next step is really to secure. So we need to decide on what a type of data, what encryption standards you want to use. Are you going to use client, are you going to hold the keys, are you going to have AWS manage your keys? Do you want encryption at rest? Do you want encryption just on transit? So the whole encryption standards and decisions have to be taken once the data is in the AWS cloud. And then the next step is to give access. So once you move the data to AWS, no one has access except the person doing it. And then you are going to define the roles, access policies, and for everyone who's going to access what, and do that exercise to secure the data based on the roles, and all that stuff. So that whole exercise has to happen after we decide on the encryption. And finally, we are going to implement the data usage monitoring for enhanced security. So who's accessing what data, what time. So it's going to have a very detailed log of all the stuff, all the things that are being accessed. So that is really the final step to secure your entire data on AWS. Then finally, the next step, the last step in my framework, and this may be required or may not be required based on your business. So what I'm saying here is integrate. So let's say your business applications are using the data earlier, and they have URLs of like remote file server locations or something like that in that application. Now we need to update that, right? And then use the AWS endpoints for all that data. So basically we're going to integrate this data into those business applications. So that's really the gist. And then what we really want to achieve this is, we want to avoid duplicate data where people put some data somewhere, some data here. We want to avoid that. We want to get rid of that problem of duplicate data and trying to manage multiple locations. We want to have one single source of truth for all the data, and that's going to be AWS, and we're going to use that to link it to all the business applications. So these are the 4 steps of my framework that helps really the SMBs to move data into AWS easily, rather than just trying to jump in and create some transfer family servers and try to do it. That's not the right thing to do. You need to have a process that's more important, and this 4-step process will guarantee success. Doesn't matter how bad your data is, doesn't matter how unstructured your data is or where it is located. Doesn't matter. If you follow these 4-step process, I'm going to guarantee that your data will be securely uploaded to AWS, and you can manage it really well in the future. I hope this is useful. This is just an overview of the framework that I follow to move the data to AWS. So I hope this is useful. So just go ahead and share it so others can benefit from it. And thanks for watching.